I think of culture as culture is the mortar that holds the bricks together. And the way I think about this is in some respects no different, perhaps it's even accelerated, I think, by COVID and by this pandemic. So we have a national culture. And I would describe our national culture as, I could use words like collaborative and, again, team-based. Again, who doesn't use those words? So let's just assume those things. Again, if you have a culture that's not collaborative, I pity you. So let's assume we have those fundamentals in place. Our culture is based on two fundamental principles, just two. Number one, super teams before superstars. And when I talk about that, what I mean is not that we don't have superstars. We have many superstars in our company. I'd like to think we have a lot of superstars in our company. What we don't need, though, is them acting like superstars. What we need is for them to be their best selves and to understand that that best self requires that they be part of a team, and they will not achieve their full potential unless they are working with and for a team. So we have a culture, super teams before superstars, and if any of your viewers want to learn more about how we think about that, I suggest that they watch the TED Talk, Forget the Pecking Order at Work, which we ask all team members to watch and understand before they even join us on their first day. And it's my favorite TED Talk.
The title is Forget the Pecking Order at Work?
Correct. Now that may sound, by the way, like a TED Talk about hierarchies. It's actually not. And actually, just really briefly, what the speaker begins by talking about an experiment that was done at Purdue University, and they utilized chickens to measure productivity. And they had a control group of chickens, and the control group of chickens, equal number of males and females, and they watched those chickens for 6 generations to measure their productivity by the number of eggs produced. And then they had another experimental group that same number of males and females, equal number, and they watched that same group of chickens for 6 generations. But these chickens were the biggest and strongest and healthiest chickens they could find. They called them super chickens. And wouldn't you know it, at the end of 6 generations, the control group produced lots of eggs, which is what chickens do. The experimental group produced very few eggs, and actually only 2 or 3 chickens even survived. Do you know why? It's because these chickens pecked each other to death. They killed each other. Because in that culture, I know we're talking about chickens, but in that culture, one chicken's success had to be at the expense of the weaker chickens. And of course these are chickens, but if you translate that into the lesson that it might teach us, it is this lesson that a stronger team is far more important than superstars. The second element of our culture, we call it consciousness or awareness. And we a number of us really like the book, The 15 Commitments of Conscious Leadership. But that book is really just describing something that's already out there. It's this way of thinking about how we're feeling and how we're perceiving the world. And it's a focus on having awareness about when we're in drama, personally, when we're at our best, which is when we're open and curious, and when we're not necessarily at our best. We call it being below the line, which is not a negative thing. Yeah. But when we're below the line, that's when we're committed to being right. We're not committed to being curious. Yeah. And that's really when we're not at our best. That's our national culture. Now, here's the thing about our culture. When you hear people talk about how they go out and they do 12 mergers, or 20 mergers, or they're going and bringing in people from breakaways from all around the country, and they have to acculturate those people, yeah, not the case. That's not reality. You can think that's the reality. Maybe you tell yourself that's misleading. We understand that every time a firm joins us through a merger or through a breakaway kind of transaction, strategic hire, whatever you want to call it, they bring their own culture, and we're okay with that. what we expect is that that culture is consistent with our national culture. It's got to be consistent. We don't want any superstars coming in and mucking it up for the rest of us. But as long as it's consistent, we actually believe we're stronger with these new cultures coming in. It's a form of multiculturalism, and we love it. We tell people, come and bring your culture. Let us learn from it. You just have to agree you're going to learn from ours as well. And if we can agree to that and agree to respect each other's differences and learn from them, that, to me, is the ultimate cultural construct. Now, bring that into the pandemic. We don't have to all be together because that was already the case coming into it, this concept of multiculturalism. And I believe that we've been able to retain that strength throughout this. However, one thing that I do fear is the loss of social capital. And social capital, in order to really get the most social capital, the optimal amount, we do have to be together in person.